And climate change making its presence felt like never before, from intense heat waves to extreme rainfall and floods. The effects are worsening with each passing day, and while we all are impacted, it is the older population that is facing the maximum risk due to this climate crisis. Our next report explains.
According to a United Nations study, in the next 3 decades, the number of people over 60 years of age worldwide will be more than double. In proportion to the total population, the number of older people will also increase, reaching 21% by 2050. More than 2/3 of this population live in low and middle-income countries, where climate-related disasters are more likely.
According to global studies, elderly adults are more susceptible to the deadly effects of climate change, which is happening now. Exposure to extreme heat can increase the risk of illness and death among older people. It is more urgent than ever to have synergies between climate change and healthy aging. Although it is the wealthiest countries and multinational companies which have contributed the most to climate change, people in all countries and in all age groups, including older people, will have to take urgent action to meet climate goals.
The World Health Organization estimates that approximately 250,000 elderly people could die each year between 2030 and 2050 from exposure to heat waves, diarrhea, malaria, dengue fever and coastal flooding. Scientists say that older people are much more susceptible to the frequency and severity of natural disasters because of their low adaptability to excess heat as well as cold.
The older adults are vulnerable to climate change related health impacts for a number of reasons. First is the normal change in the body associated with aging, such as muscle and bone loss, can limit their mobility. So the older adults can also more likely to have chronic health conditions such as diabetes, and that require medical treatment. So what climate change does is that for example, if you have an extreme weather event or extreme heat exposure, the comorbidities of the people gets compounded during this time.
The risk of heat-related illness among the elderly can be compounded by the use of certain prescribed medicines. Older people are more vulnerable to both heat and cold stress, particularly those living in poor, overcrowded urban areas. They are much more sensitive to heat stress than younger adults because of their lower adaptability, such as less sweating capacity, reduced skin blood flow, and smaller increase in cardiac output.
Extreme heat exposure that can increase the risk of illness and death among the older adults. Also during the extreme weather events such as cyclones and flooding, these are the people who are not very mobile and they need extra care, and that may bring in some issues in terms of how do you transport them to a safer location.
A recent report released by the United Nations World Meteorological Organization confirmed that the past 7 years were the top 7 hottest years on record. Epidemiological studies also indicate that the populations most vulnerable to variations in cold winter weather are the older people, rural residents, and generally populations living in moderate winter climates. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.